First off, for the last year, I have been working on me. Almost 2 years now. And I'm not done yet. I started preaching, started my first church in 1981. So it's been a long time. Those of you who would have known me, like Kathy, would have known that I was full of pride because I was one of just a few people in this country who could do the things that I did. And it gave me a place of thinking in my mind that God couldn't do it without me. Because I felt like God had put me here for this mission and that it was my job to do that. The problem with that is that didn't start then. It started way back when I was a child. I don't know about you, but I grew up hiding who I was. Hiding behind doing things for other people so that they would like me. And I found myself doing all of these things because it was easier for me to do those things than for me to have thoughts going on in my head about who I was. I was telling Mark about a time I was probably 12 years old. My mom was having a bunch of people over, ladies over for a little snack dinner kind of a thing. My dad was out of town. And I had watched my mom cook. Later, who I would become very good friends with. Many of you won't remember his name, the Galloping Gourmet. Graham Kerr, who's become a real good friend of ours family for many, many years. I used to watch him get sauced cooking. And I watched him cook. So I learned how to cook watching TV. So I fixed dinner for all of these ladies. I'd watched how to prepare, how to do all these things. My mother came home and was surprised. Happy, surprised. Everything tasted really good. Everybody asked, oh, I want that recipe, I want this recipe. It was all my mom and my grandmother's recipes. I just done them. But I got all of that good stuff. I got all that good. Attaboy, you did good, you did good. And from that moment on, I was addicted to that. I wanted to be perfect because I wanted to hear those things. I wanted to feel that feeling of how good I was. So in 1974, when I got married to my former wife, I had been trained how to do certain things. How to get people to do things because I was really good. I got them to do the things because I was controlling them out of a selfish manipulation. Because I wanted to hear good things coming back. So I went out of my way to do things for people that I knew were things that they wanted done for them. So a couple of years ago, almost a couple of years ago, I went with somebody because I was going to support them in a 12-step program. Now, I had lots of people in my other church who had addictions, and I suggested all kinds of rehab and all kinds of programs. And, you know, I prayed with them, and some people miraculously got healed. I mean, certainly wasn't because of me. I wasn't a perfect vessel by any means. But I went with this person to this program, and I started listening. And I started hearing God. Like, I've heard God my whole life. But suddenly I was hearing God in a different way. He was speaking to me in a way that was powerful, gentle, loving, protective. And it changed my life. So the past week or so, I started this study because I've wanted to have this study brought to the church. And it is a 12-step program for Christian believers. And I think it's really good for our culture to understand these steps. They will change your life. So the very first step of this 12-step program, which I talked about last week, step 1, we admitted we were powerless over the effects of our separation from God, that our lives had become unmanageable. How many of you knew you needed to be saved from yourself? That's what salvation is. Saving you from yourself. We talked about Paul knowing it. If you're taking notes, you can look up Romans 7:17 through 20. Step 2 is about the birth of faith on the inside of us. And that's what we took advantage of a moment ago when we asked Jesus to come into our heart. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I don't know about you, but there have been moments in my life where I was out of it. Out of it. Not inebriated, not on drugs, but on pride, on selfishness, what I wanted. I look back at this and I can see now how some of those characteristics have been passed down to my children. And I've encouraged them all to get involved in the program. Because there are things that, like I said this morning, you know, children don't come with an owner's manual. I mean, you buy a car, you get a car manual. You get a driver's license, you get a book on how to do that. You don't get a license on becoming a parent. You don't get a book that comes along with them to help you along the way. But I realized that some of that selfishness of me wanting my way inevitably passed down to them. And so now they're working on it. And it's difficult. How many of you ever seen the show Bill Cosby himself? When he's talking about his children saying, mine, mine, mine. And he went up and says, just give it to them. Shut them up. But it's really mine. I don't care. Just give it to them. Because we learned that selfishness doesn't get us very far. So we came to believe that there was a power greater than us that could restore us to sanity. Step 3. It involves a decision that we have to make to let God be in charge. I'm tired of being in charge. Because the mistakes that have been made in my life have been made because I was in charge. Not because God was doing that. Because I was in charge. And I guarantee you, God can write a book about your life much better than you can. And the ending will be a whole lot better than the beginning. Step 3, we made a decision. Cognitive decision. It's not some emotional thing. It's not an emotional high. You didn't go to camp. You didn't sit around a bonfire. You didn't all have the kumbaya going on. Some of you might have. But it was an understanding of your mind. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. Let him take over. That's what that song was all about. I surrender all. Giving up control. And for a control freak like me, that's really pretty hard to do. I learned how to be in control very early. I learned that trait very quickly. My dad was a CPA, so he was very exact about everything he did. Meticulous, like a stopwatch, ticking every single day. I could tell what he was going to be doing every moment of the day because he read like a clock. And I learned that that was good. I saw the money that he made. I saw the position that he held. I saw the company that he built. I saw the company that he built join with another company and make a huge oil company in this country. So I saw my dad and I said, I want to be like that. The more I became like that, the less of God I became. Because I became selfish, self-like. I got my way. And the results were terrible. So what I wanted to talk about this morning is the first 3 steps are about having peace with God, making peace with God. Knowing that without God, you are sunk. That's what our culture, our community doesn't get. They think that they can rule their life and come out with a better results than yielding to God and letting Him do it. The problem is they'll get the life that they've planned. So we're going on to step 4. We're only going to cover 2 steps. I got notes. To step, what we say, 7, but we're not going to go that far. We're not going to get there. Because step 4 is a very painful step in a journey to become whole. And this is what I'm going to challenge you to do. If you've ever been a part of a program, a 12-step program, step 4 is where most people walk out of the program and leave. They'll do 3 steps. But the 4th one is very, very painful. It requires you to get a pencil and a paper. Doesn't it? Requires you to get a pencil and a paper and begin to write down every negative thing about yourself. Every fault. And you know what? You can think you don't have any. That's a fault. So write that down. Oh, sorry, what? Yeah. Well, I've watched someone write 600 lines. 600 lines. Because when you begin to unravel that, one thing is going to open your eyes to another. If you are willing to be open and honest. See, this requires honesty. And we don't know how to be honest. We don't. We have lied our whole lives. And we've done a pretty good job. If you've lived as long as I have, and you didn't come out until you were 46, 49, yeah, 49, no, 46. If you didn't come out until then, I guarantee you, you've lied a lot, and you don't know how to be honest. You don't know how to be honest with yourself because you've lied to everybody else so long you believe your own lies. You've become pretty good at being everything you said you are, but you're not. It's like the magic wizard. When you pull back the curtains, all that you think is not real. And this big thing, this big element that you have projected that everybody is so fearful or in awe about is really this little individual just trying to keep up. I was telling Mark this morning on the way in, I said, I remember the old Ed Sullivan program. Anybody here remember Ed Sullivan? Yeah. The rest of you going like, who was he? Anybody remember the Beatles? Who? John McCartney. Yeah. Paul McCartney. Oh, Wings. No.